All right. Uh, Good afternoon and welcome to the December 8th Facilities and Finance Committee Subcommittee meeting. If I can get a roll call, please.
Jackie Erdrich.
Eric Sahakian, Ernesto Mora.
Alex Ardosian.
Kylie Nguyen.
And Bill Mays. Do we have any public comments at this time?
No.
Okay. Ty, if you can go over the new housing developments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mays. I have Ms. Rachel from Philman Roll-Up to talk a little bit more about the Community Facilities District, the CFD. And also in regards to the status of the RTG investment in regards to the housing development that's supposedly going to occur in Acton. With that, I'm gonna pass out some handouts and then I'm gonna pass it on to Ms. Rachel so that she can elaborate a little bit more about the CFD and ATG as well, RTG as well. Thank you.
Of course, thank you very much for having me back. So thank you again, Mr. Wang, for passing out the presentation slides. Then I will not share my screen, but go through this slide here. Again, Rachel Chen-Kui here, Senior Vice President with Philman Roll-Up and Associates. We are municipal advisor to the district, and we work with public agencies only, including many school districts. So for the community facilities district that presentation we have put together, we thought it would be helpful to discuss and recap on what CFDs can do, and of course dive into a little more detail on this potential project and answer any questions the district may have. So moving on to section 1, providing you an overview of Community Facilities District or CFD. And moving on to the next slide here is slide number 4. So first, what is a CFD? The acronym stands for Community Facilities District. It is a financing mechanism used by all local public agencies for providing public improvements, services without burdening your general fund. So it is achieved by imposing a special tax on properties. I see that the presentation is up on the screen here. While we wait for that, I'll keep going with some of the highlights on this slide number 4 here. So boundaries of a CFD can be created as the school district sees fit. It can be any size, any shape, or even 2 or more areas in separate geographic portions. And what's helpful with Community Facilities District is that only the homes within the CFD boundary areas are levied the special taxes, and only the registered voters or the property owners within the CFD can vote to approve the tax. So unlike a general obligation bonds that I know when I was in front of the committee last month, we dive into a little, which 99% of the time is district-wide. The CFD can coincide with a particular development and to try to better mitigate their impact. So that is also why the CFDs are also known as Special Tax District or Melrose District. The CFDs can issue bonds that are repaid by the revenue stream of these future special taxes to help you get the upfront lump sum dollars for your school facility needs. And as CFDs levy taxes annually moving forward, they also provide you with pay-as-you-go funding is what we call it. And I think maybe it'll be helpful to provide a brief history of CFDs here in California. So it really didn't come in place until after Prop 13. So 1978, voters in California enacted Prop 13 that, among a lot of other things, limited the ability of local agencies to increase property taxes without voter approval. So after that, as a result, we saw a lot of public agencies that really experienced difficulties getting the necessary funding for their infrastructure and services. Then the Melrose Community Facilities Act of 1982 was passed and authorized CFDs for these purposes. So It can be established by the votes of the owner of a particular property, which is oftentimes the developer, because no homes have been built yet, so there's no individual homeowners. And then the taxes, as I mentioned earlier, are limited to the CFD boundary. If there are no questions, I'll move on to the next slide. I know that's this is a slide, and the next one too. Last month when I presented to the committee, we discussed the insufficiency of developer fees, but maybe I'll do another quick highlight here, right? Because public agency, we really don't have to look to these other alternative financing opportunities if the state will fund all your facility needs. Unfortunately, under SB 50, the only action that you can take to mitigate the impact on your school facilities as a result of new residential as well as commercial industrial development is to collect developer fees. As a school district, our developer fees are not calculated by us or to fund the true impact. Instead, it's calculated by the state. So they do that every 2 years. So they do it in even years in January every year. So currently, that's $5.17 per square foot for residential property. The commercial industrial, that varies. But speaking of that $5.17, in theory, it's funding only 50% of the development impact. So when a home gets built, when kids gets generated by that home, we're supposed to provide 100% of the facilities to accommodate the student generated. Unfortunately, developer fee only funds you 50% of the impact. And we all know that the other 50% is to be provided through matching funds from the state school facility program. And that program, one, is a matching program. And that so you require local match. On top of that, now the state is reimbursing districts and have a long list of already approved allocations that districts are having to come up with 100% of the funds on day one and waiting for that reimbursement. And it's also very unfortunate that the formula the state uses to calculate developer fees is dated. It does not reflect the standards of today's education environment, or as we all know, all the construction cost escalation. So moving on to slide number 6 here. In order to meet these funding shortfall, school districts really have to look at alternatives such as general obligation bonds we talked about last time, and or these CFDs, developer mitigation. So diving into that a little more, a CFD, it requires the mutual agreement with the developer. So oftentimes we have to engage in a communication and or negotiation with these developers at the outset of the development. And we talked about how that can coincide with the particular development. So the property owners within the new development area would pay for their impact. And to make sure that if only one side of the district is experiencing growth, new development, not all of the school district and or your community have to pay for this impact. Next, going to here, you may ask, why would anyone consider CFDs? It's certainly mutually beneficial. For the CFDs, really, it's beneficial for the public agencies, certainly for the developers, as well as for the homeowners. For the agencies, this is another method to help you fund the needed infrastructure to really assist with the development. So for some agencies, such as the district, CFDs can finance a premium on top of the statutory developer fees. So that's oftentimes one of the most important item we negotiate with developers is to get you a little more than that $5.17. We are not able to, it will be difficult to fully fund your impact. However, it will get you closer to that. So that developer mitigation premium is a helpful component here. In the CFD, we talked about it, it's in the vote taxes is only limited to that specified boundary, not your entire district. And the CFD issuance of the bonds, rather than collecting developer fees every $5.17 and having to wait until you have a critical mass to pay for certain project, CFDs can issue bonds that can provide timely, upfront, and lump sum funding. And the special taxes levied by the CFD, that's what provides the security and repayment for the CFD bonds. So your other funds are legally separated and not exposed to the CFD debt. Some agencies also structure the CFDs to generate additional surplus special taxes. So in addition to upfront bond dollars, you also get pay-as-you-go facility dollars for some of your projects going forward. And of course, that local control is always helpful for school district. For developers, CFD are also beneficial to them because end of the day, better schools increases the marketability of the project. And with the CFDs financing the developer impact fees and all the needed improvements, the cost to build the project becomes lower for the developer. And the CFD taxes, they're tied to the property and not to the developer. So it is technically off the developer's balance sheet. For homeowners, they will get to enjoy the infrastructure, for example, a new neighborhood school that serves that development. And since the cost to build is lower for the developer, the purchase price should be in theory lower for the homeowners for those homes inside of the CFD versus outside of the CFD. And the homeowners only pay the CFD taxes while they own the property. They do not have to pay for the entire term of the special taxes, but they get to enjoy the new facilities while they own the home. Next slide, please. So lastly, a CFD contains many phases. To summarize them, there are 3 of them here. One is the formation, when you negotiate and form the CFD. One is the funding, where you get to access your bond dollars. And last but not the least, we have to, on an ongoing basis, manage the CFD. So the agency would start by setting the overall CFD goals and policies and negotiate the term of a CFD to start this whole process, which the school district had already put a CFD goals and policies in place back in 2020 to be in a position to start a CFD program should you see that development to come in your boundary. So speaking of that CFD formation process, once you have negotiated the terms to go through it to form the CFD, it's usually a 90 to 120 day process. It will require 3 separate board approval or meeting with a special landowner election. And for that funding phase, as discussed earlier, special tax bonds can be issued by the CFD to provide you more proceeds for your school project. And this process usually takes about 90 days, and it requires at least 1 board meeting to consider authorizing the bond issuance. The CFD process does not end there because each year the CFD levies the special taxes in accordance with the formation document and that resolution to establish the annual special tax rate for all of your CFDs will come to the board for your consideration every summer before they're enrolled with the county to provide and make sure they show up correctly on the CFD homeowners tax bills. Now I'll dive into the specifics of this potential project. I know we've all heard a lot about them, so diving into the details here. Here are some of our research and new information that we have obtained through the county. So we understand that this project is being developed by RTG Investment. We got the track number and the general location here. So it's located between Highway 14 and the Sierra Highway. We have seen a wide range of when it comes to acreage, when it comes to unit count. But generally speaking, we understand that that particular location is a part of the unincorporated LA County. We've seen documents, development approval documents, as well as prior conversations with RTG Investment, presenting that this 700 to over 1,000 acre of land to be developed. We've heard from 200 some to over 400 single family residential units to be developed. They have also shared that this is to be built in multiple phases. Since this is a development and in the unincorporated area, we understand that in addition to the school district's fees and impact, there's a lot of other infrastructure needs before the project would be viable, before they provide vertical construction and start building the homes before they start selling the homes. So we know the county has a lot of fee and infrastructure. Roads, sewer, water, and more will need to make sure they're in place before RTG or any other builder can start building on this project. I will wrap up this slide by talking about what the school district have make sure that it put in place for this particular project. We understand that when it does happen, it's going to be a large scale development, and the district is being good steward of your educational community, making sure that we are in a position to hopefully mitigate or be able to support this project when the kids do come. So as I mentioned earlier, back in 2020, the board has already considered and approved the basic document, which sets the goals and policies of how you would consider CFDs in the future. So after that, after getting engaged in a dialogue with RTG Investment as a part of your CFD goals and policies, we wanted to make sure that any legal consultant costs do not come from your general fund. They are generally covered, as many school districts and their CFDs, they're covered by an upfront deposit by the developer, which they will get reimbursed when development happens and bonds get sold. So we did receive $50,000 of CFD formation deposit from RTG in 2021. So at that time, we thought it was, time to go. Let's agree on the terms. Let's talk about what you want to finance, and then the school district's needs and requirements for this particular development. We requested all the necessary development information from RTG after receiving the deposit. We've also had a set of Zoom discussions with them. Unfortunately, we've never received all of the information that we needed from this developer. One thing I can also share is that the timeline back in 2021 that RTG shared with us when it comes to when they expect the first home to be completed and homeowners to show up, we're now already 3 years behind that timeline. So our last conversation with RTG was back in September of 2022, where on behalf of the school district, we followed up again on our information request and waiting for their response. So this sitting here right now, we understand that we've tried to reestablish that conversation with RTG. Here at Philman, we work on a lot of these CFDs. We have reached out to the development community as well as RTGs directly. We've yet to receive a response from them. Nevertheless, we'll continue to try to establish that line of communication to make sure that when the project is ready to proceed, the school district is one of those first ones at the table to be able to negotiate something more than statutory school fees, developer fees, and of course, your needs and whether a future school site and so on is necessary are those conversations to be had. So those are all the slides I've prepared to talk about this potential development, to really recap on what CFDs are and how that could hopefully be an additional tool to the district and the board's toolbox to finance these facility needs. With that, I will stop and happy to answer any questions.
Eric Sahakian here. Thank you, Ms. Chen Kui, for the presentation. I do have a question. I know it's been several years now that there has been no communication from the developer RTG. I would imagine this is uncommon in terms of your experience.
That
And what
is
would you attribute that to?
That is absolutely correct. Generally speaking, just like us here at Filma, we are financial advisor, we're a consultant to the school district. A lot of these developers and national builders, they also engage in services of developers consultant. And there are 2, 3, 4 firms here in the state that provide that work. So RTG, for whatever reason, never engaged one back in 2020, 2021. And every time they reach out, so there's that gap in understanding, right, in terms of what exactly is the list of information that we need. For example, we need to know the exact product mix, square footage, price, home price, base home price information, so that we can calculate, so we can set a special tax rate for a potential CFD. Without that information, it's hard for us to move forward and create all the legal documents. So those are dialogues that we oftentimes want to have with the developer and its team. Unfortunately, our line of communication back in 21, it's always stop and go. Every time we request something, we would not receive the response. And then they would a little bit later follow with us in wanting to move forward the process. And we would remind them that we have yet to receive that information, and in the same circle would continue. And again, to answer the question, this is highly unusual from all the CFDs that we work on. And I have also reached out. So I myself only work with K-14 school districts, but we have general governments team that also work with Los Angeles County. So I reached out internally to see if there's any information to that my general government group can help us gather, so we're more informed. I'll make sure to keep the superintendent and Mr. Wang informed if I have any updates. As far as why this is the case, I think there's a lot of different speculation. I think when we were trying to do more research sitting here in 2025 regarding this potential development, there are other presentations that the town of Acqua Dulce and its town council have discussed, and there's information that we cannot confirm if it's true or not. But one thing we can confirm is that the contacts that we had or established in 2021 have not responded to our attempt to, or inquiries after multiple attempts.
Thank you, that was very thorough.
Is RTG, I've looked them up, there's multiple RTGs, are they a local company, are they not, do we know where they're based out of?
So
I mean, because they've already started the groundwork process, the earthwork. So there obviously should be somebody on site overseeing this project that would have more information.
I agree, and a lot of times what we see is there are different members within the company that would wear the different hats. For example, the folks that are on the ground doing the current horizontal infrastructure.
I work for a developer, so I know how it works.
Gotcha.
Construction for a developer, so.
That's very helpful to have your expertise here.
Yeah.
Not sure if those would be the right people that will be.
Well, they have the phone numbers for the people that are higher up to be able to get in contact with At least they should. So that's why I'm asking. I mean, I haven't seen a site office, I haven't seen anything, all I see is tractors and, their equipment moving around and kind of at a slow pace, so I'm not sure what their plan is. Have we talked to LA County Public Works or LA County Building Department? Cause they should have the information on what's going on, at least with that, with the earthwork, and they should have some kind of contact information as well for the owner developer on their permitting process for what they're doing right now.
That's all great input. Hopefully we'll be able to establish contacts too. So I have yet to hear back from LA County. They are a very large and
Oh, yeah.
multi-layered organization, but we'll be sure to bring back any updates as we acquire them. And to answer one of the earlier question, what do we know about RTG? Are they a local firm? So
Right.
based on our research and some of the information they share with us, they're a national firm. And they were based, I think, in Glendale at one point. Not sure about the most recent information. And there, I think some of the news articles when one Googles RTG investment, some of the news articles that come up also have them associated with other outside country investment group that had raised speculation on how their operation and how viable the project is here in the community.
So we anticipate more information hopefully sooner than later.
Certainly, we're hopeful that that is the case, and we'll make sure that we bring this to the superintendent and the cabinet, and we'll make sure the committee and or the board gets updated. I think sitting here right now and the lack of response that we're getting, I think our recommendation is to make sure that the board is aware of how CFD can be beneficial to your facility needs. And we'll make sure that from this district side, we understand our needs and understand what the process would entail, so that when the developer, when we see that the development is truly moving forward, and having that ability to put all the vertical infrastructure also in place, construction in place, we'll be ready to start that conversation or negotiation with the developer.
Wonderful. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you, Rachel, for your time and being here, and we'll connect again soon.
Sounds good. I'll
Thank
be
you.
sure to keep you updated, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
So, then you have Dulce, 1, 2, did you want to say anything about that one? This is
No,
basically,
it's
just kind of the water district, yeah, it's kind of going over the water board stuff, and,
Alright.
like,
Yeah.
so, all right, any more comments on that? All right. However, public works track study.
Yes, so I do want to mention that we have a community member, I believe patiently waiting on Zoom. She's been very insightful and very mindful, Ms. Trussell, who lives very near to Meadowlark. We have known that there's been, of course, some hiccups with drop-off pickup, where Meadowlark is situated, year to year, and there's been some adjustments made. And over the years, and I think, the continuous improvement is bearing fruit at this juncture. Ms. Trussell met with Mr. Lewick and myself probably at least a month ago now. to take an input from a community member who lives in and around Meadowlark. Some changes have been made over at Meadowlark for the drop-off pickup for the better, is what I'm hearing. Back in, switching gears, but on the same topic, back in February 2025, so close to a year ago, the district reached out to LA County Public Works Traffic and Safety Mobility Division to have a formal traffic engineering report and a traffic study conducted with the existing conditions, Wisconsin Street, Soledad, Sacramento, as far as drop-off pickup, the amount of foot traffic, car traffic, etc. I'm not gonna read it verbatim, but the existing conditions were outlined in the report itself that you have in front of you. And then, of course, taking a look at movement there at the intersections. And then a discussion, a review of the traffic collision history was on file with the CHP for a 5-year period ending just this past summer, July 31st, 2025. Revealed no reported collisions at the intersection of Wisconsin Street and Sacramento. I've heard otherwise, but I could be wrong, but this is based on their report itself. And then field reviews of the subject location conducted May 12, 25 through just recently October 23rd of this year. Revealed that the existing signs and pavement markings were visible and unobstructed. We did put in the request with LA County as far as this study, if they could go ahead and consider a crossing guard for the intersection of Wisconsin and Sacramento. They, of course, part of the study, they were looking at pedestrian traffic, foot traffic, vehicles from north, south, east, and west, both morning and afternoon hours. Based on their study, the following page, the last page, the findings, recommendations, they came up with crossing guard criteria was not met for the intersection of Wisconsin Street and Sacramento Avenue. In the spirit of AAUSD, we just don't let things lie. So, yeah, I had a discussion with cabinet, in particular with human resources as well as business. So we, took matters into our own hands to create a crossing guard job description so that we could go ahead and take at least that piece into consideration internally to see if we could go ahead and hire someone as a crossing guard, someone's.
So, a quick question.
Yes, please.
But I'm assuming it's because of after school care. Why do we have so many cars coming in the morning and so many not? There's like 50, 60, 70 cars less.
Yeah, I saw that differential.
So I'm assuming it's for after school care and they didn't stay around long enough to see.
I would think so, but I wouldn't.
Or
argue
other
that many.
Or other people are taking, I mean, it's just weird that.
There's a
320 in the morning and 237 in the afternoon and 344 and 250, that's like almost 100 kids different.
Yeah.
Per cars.
Because for the after-school program, those who are in the after-school program would be sunny days that would be bused,
Right.
our adjacent classrooms here. So I did put in a request for that discrepancy to be explained to the public
Right.
study.
Okay.
Gentleman at LA County that I have contact with. I haven't heard back yet, but I did see that differential, which was a little bit off. I couldn't explain it myself. But any questions? Thank you for that, Mr. Mays. Any questions regarding the study? It's not my study, so I'll do the best that I can to answer any questions. But based on that, we want to go ahead and really kind of take control of what we could control.
I think she and you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Trussell, you had a comment or question? Thank you for being.
Hey, everybody, thank you for letting me sit in on your meeting. Hold on a second, Laura. I do actually have a question. So I'm sorry, I didn't hear the part you said. How far back did they make that report for incidences was it off of Soledad in Wisconsin or Sacramento in Wisconsin?
Let me go to that section for a question. So a review of traffic collision history was on file with CHP for a 5-year period.
Uh-huh.
ending July 31st, 2025. So I'll assume July 2020 through July 2025 for the intersection of Wisconsin and Sacramento.
Okay, that makes sense. That's why they didn't find anything. Okay. And then my other question is this a report that I could come and read in full, or is it something that the public can see, or is it only for internal use for the district?
No, you could definitely come and take a look at the report in full.
Okay.
Some information has been redacted, and that redaction is the way I received it.
Okay,
As far as phone numbers, requests or information and so forth, so on, but as far as the report itself, there hasn't been any redactions made, and I'll be more than happy to share it with you.
awesome. I will definitely shoot you an email and maybe we can schedule a time for that.
Absolutely.
And then I'm gonna go ahead and keep listening. I think your guys' is, like you said, to kind of take something into your own hands with it and possibly hire somebody to do some kind of crossing guard. That's really
Exactly.
nice to hear. So I'm gonna let you keep going on it and then I have some comments for when you're done.
All right, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Now, just to conclude it, our request was for a crossing guard to be supported through LA County Public Works. That was denied just based on the study itself. We don't have a crossing guard job description on file for the district. So we went ahead and we looked at other districts, put something together, synthesize it to what you have in front of you. And I want to say this is on the board agenda for this Thursday for review and approval. If and when it's approved, then we can go ahead and post, and hopefully we could have something early part of the new year as far as a hire.
So the crossing guards that are high desert, are those LA County
Yes.
crossing guards? Okay.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, the crossing guards at High Desert is supported by LA County.
Because
not
of
by-
Sierra Highway.
Yes, just given the traffic study that was done at least a few years back now. The questions about the,
And then the 3.5 hours, that's an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half in the afternoon.
that's correct.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's quite open in terms of education experience. So, once approved, if and when it's approved, then we'll go ahead and post and try to get somebody there physically and then provide the necessary training they need.
Those, and probably not, but the sheriff's department, like their volunteers, they don't have anything like that that could come in and help at any point.
Early on, and we started in Acton, I did ask sheriffs. There was even there's a retired group of sheriffs, and I still have their contact information. They said that they cannot, they don't have that kind of pool to actually provide a volunteer, but they did at the time indicate that they can patrol in and around the area just for visibility sake.
Because they're always across the street at the park, I see
Yeah.
them patrolling there all the time,
Yeah.
so it might be,
The by car.
yeah.
So that's what they offered, and we did that a little while back, for visibility sake.
Right.
But no one to necessarily on foot to volunteer.
Right.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
Hi again. As far as volunteers go, I know there are some really good community groups locally here in Acton that you might reach out to. I can think of maybe the Lions Club if it's still there, or even the Acton Rangers. They are really great at helping out in the community if you're going that way. Just on comments on what I've been seeing so far with what the changes have been made, the traffic is alleviated on Soledad, which is really awesome. Today I was leaving to go get my daughter in Agua Dulce and I noticed, the vehicles are coming up Wisconsin Street now and turning around, which I think is definitely a good temporary solution. They did come up pretty far up the road though, and I know that the neighbor's property that they're now turning around on, she's not quite friendly, so much so that she's actually closed off an entire, which is technically, it's also a private road, but she's closed it off and is saying that it's part of her property. It's really not. So I don't know how long it'll take her to notice what's happening, but she might not be too happy about that. But it is, it was seemingly helpful, but it is still pretty clogged. And I'm also not really sure I was kind of trying to research it a little bit, but I didn't have enough time, what the restrictions, if any, are regarding a private road. I know, for example, down at the iLead school, their front gate is also on a private road, and they've sent out numerous, notifications just saying that once the pavement stops, you can't go on that part of the road. I guess maybe their neighbors have complained enough to the school directly. Obviously, it's really just 3 residences on Wisconsin that are on the portion of the private road that you might keep an eye or contact with, us being one. But that was something that, I did notice. So it still does get cloggy. I had to drive up on the left-hand shoulder as I was exiting today just to be able to get around the cars that were coming up to turn around. So just, eyes on it to let you guys know how it's working. Otherwise, I think that having the traffic alleviated on the Soledad portion is a lot better. So, to have to deal with the traffic on Wisconsin for myself, it's something that I could be cautious while I'm doing, but it's still a little cloggy, but I would rather do that than the traffic that was on Soledad.
Thank you. No, we'll take the small wins for now.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate that comment and the comment regarding the property owner, the homeowner. So I'll relay that to Mr. Lewick, the interim principal at Meadowlark. So we can stay vigilant and, maybe reach out to them and just talk about any challenges that they might be having at this point in time. And just so that they know that they're being heard.
Okay, and I'll see if I can get her name
Yeah.
from our other neighbor, Greg. I can't remember her name at the moment. But I'll see if I can get her information for you.
Thank you so much. We would appreciate that. And
Yeah.
as community partners, we have great community partners. We could always reach out to them, and if anybody reaches out to you, have them communicate with us, and then we could, talk about work as a volunteer and what that process looks like as well.
Yeah, I would be willing to throw in some volunteer hours if it doesn't conflict with my own pickup and drop off.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah, more the merrier. So we appreciate that.
definitely.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Alright. So now, these are future meeting agenda items. Next steps, next meeting, so I guess, what do we have for our next, I think we need to continue on this study with the developer and see if we can get some more information. There's gotta be more information out there.
We could stay in communication with Gilman and Ms. Chang Kuei and see, if she has any additional information, we could do an update there as well.
I wanna try to look into some stuff too.
Thank you. So we could keep that for January, and then, I know it was, I think November, we did the bus lease kind of comparison cost analysis. Just kind of gauging where that was going as far as, leasing option versus purchasing. If we could, have that follow up at that point in January.
And then if we also, go over the winter projects that's going on during winter break, so we can see where we're at.
The winter projects.
Yeah.
Update. Anything else? Any other future agenda items?
No, but real quick, during the big rainstorms, do we have any more issues than the ones we know about?
No,
Oh.
just regular little leaks here and there,
Right, but-
nothing major.
Okay,
Yeah, that was a good test.
yeah. All right,
We
well,
have 3 items.
there's no other comments,
No.
we will adjourn the meeting at 4:44. Thank you, everybody, for being up.